just very easy to dismiss people if they don't get it once you've had the wool pulled from your own eyes. I've definitely been culpable of that, of them dismissing, sort of, what's the right word? I think just not having enough sensitivity for where people are, and like learning how to navigate that in a way that is sensitive. You know, because at the end of the day, if you're going back into the cave, where like I was once manacled in the cave, looking upon the wall of shadows, thinking it was real, like that was me. I had a spiritual awakening that spontaneously, like, you know, roused me from this slumber. Like, I'm very fortunate that that happened. And actually the thing is, it's like, how do we go back into the cave and then rouse others from the slumber? Because you can't go and shake people awake. That doesn't work. It's like, I always have this vision of sort of playing a flute, like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, you know, and sort of rousing people. It's like, how do we do that? That is the task of the philosopher. That is literally the task of the philosopher, which Plato speaks about, is to take people out of the cave.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. Thank you for being with us today. A very exciting and informative discussion today with Arabella Thais about the future of humanity. And just a note that if you have some coincidence stories you'd like to tell us, there's a link underneath the post of this video where you can go to the Coincidence Project share page and tell us your coincidence story. I've been writing about the future of humanity for the last couple of years, and it's hard to find people who are actually thinking about it in a positive way. Our guest today is definitely doing that. We are stepping into a terrain that is both ancient and urgently contemporary. How humanity imagines its own future. Arabella works with ideas that many people feel intuitively but have trouble naming. That meaning arises from pattern rather than from linear chronology. That time itself may have higher levels of order, and that inner sovereignty might not be simply a psychological achievement, but a structural achievement for freedom in a world that is no longer held together by inherited myths. And maybe most importantly, Arabella reminds us that humanity's evolution is not simply technological or ecological, it is also interior. Nothing changes outside until there is an inner architecture strong enough to hold it. That is where synchronicity, self-observation, and meaning-making become essential tools. They help us perceive the deeper patterns already unfolding beneath us. Arabella, a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about an idea that you have stated previously, that pattern has a lot to do with how we understand reality. Meaning is generated from pattern, not from chronology.
Well, that's quite an abstract. That's a deep question, and it's abstract. So I'm thinking about how to best answer that. I suppose when you put the emphasis on pattern rather than chronology, I guess the thing to highlight there is that most people, or the mainstream, conceives of life and time largely in terms of a chronology, right? So a timeline and things occurring in a linear sequence, right? And, you know, the past moving into the present, moving into the future. And sort of meaning, meaning isn't really valued in our society anymore or spoken about, but largely people are couching their lives within a chronological framework rather than considering considering something deeper, which I guess is what pattern pertains to, then there's the question of what pattern really is. So it's like, how do you extricate the relationship between pattern and meaning? Because something can have a pattern and not necessarily be meaningful, right? You could look at say Islamic tiling, so like Islamic mosaics, which is highly patterned. Is that necessarily meaningful? Well, a lot of people would say, not necessarily. So when I talk about meaning generating from pattern, I guess what I'm suggesting by that is that patterning points towards something deeper. It's a deeper structure. Pattern is a deeper structure, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a really big question.
It's a big
Just
question,
go straight in there.
and it was very clear in what you were writing that you made that statement quite clearly, and so
Right.
that's why I ask about it, because the idea of pattern is very important to what I'm writing about, because pattern is a pattern is how we understand reality. These brains of ours, these minds of ours, perceive reality through patterns and pattern repetition. Pattern means repetition usually. And so you are referring to pattern and meaning. And the trouble I think you're having, and I've had, is what do we mean by meaning? Because there are all kinds of ways to think about it. But it gets to a fundamental idea that you are still trying to understand. So we can move away from that and talk about what you mean by inner sovereignty and how important that is with attunement.
Well, I like riffing off this idea of pattern and meaning. I think it's very generative. I think the reason I'm struggling is as an opening gambit, this could go in so many different directions. This is not something that's, do you know what I mean? This is a really, really inexhaustibly generative ideation, right?
Well, let's go with it, because those are two of my favorite words.
Which is why I'm struggling as an opening gambit, because I could, like where do I go from here, right? Because so yes, like pattern does pertain to some level of repetition, but not necessarily repetition is in the same thing. It could be repetition like a rhyme, right? And a rhyme can be like a resonance, right? So it's not necessarily the same thing happening again, which is obviously, this pertains to synchronicity. It's like a internal, like a mirroring, a reflection, or something rhyming.
Yeah.
With the example of the mosaics, just to use this like this metaphor, you're looking at structural mathematical symmetry, which is kind of a repetition of form. And materialist scientists would say there is nothing kind of intrinsically meaningful there. And obviously this is pertaining to pure mathematical form now, but then non-materialists would look at sacred geometry, or, and say, well, actually this does point towards some deeper meaning, right? Even if it's non-verbal, it does point towards deeper meaning. And I also, materialist scientists, and I think this is important to acknowledge, would, they even have a word for it, say that humans naturally err towards detecting pattern, like detecting, right?
Yeah.
It begins with P. There's a name for it, that they say that we perceive pattern and therefore meaning when it's not really there, right? So like if you look at clouds in the sky and you see the face of
the word you're talking about is apophenia, is putting meaning on patterns that aren't there. Apophenia. And that's a way of dismissing a lot of synchronicity for many people, but it's also true, as with a lot of polarities, is that sometimes we do make up patterns, but sometimes there are patterns in those clouds, Arabella. Sometimes they're there, and they are reflecting often what I am thinking about. So there's a synchronicity with clouds sometimes. So discriminating them, apophenia, making it up versus something there, is part of our challenge.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was looking at what you sent me last night, and it's interesting, this word pattern and what we mean by pattern and what it confers. It's really significant. I think, to be as concise as possible, it points towards a deeper order, right?
Yeah,
A deeper order, and
a
therefore
deeper order. Yes, and you are deeply interested in the deeper order,
yeah.
as am I. And we have to get to that deeper order, I think, understand it, embrace it, and make it part of our lives in order for humanity to survive in ways that you and I are imagining.
Pattern also refers to relationality, doesn't it? It
It
refers
does.
to like some level of coherence within internal relations.
It definitely. And then you add resonance in there,
Yeah.
because resonance and pattern are same idea. It's a similar, not the same, but they go together in some form or other.
Yeah.
And that's important in the way you're thinking about, and that has to do with attunement, which is another important idea for you. It's all pattern repetition, or analogs of that you are very much, I think, caught up with, as am I.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, is there a direction you wanted to pursue there? You mentioned attunement,
We're rifting, Arabella,
okay.
because that was
Because these are
just
no, these are huge ideas. Usually, when I sort of do a podcast or something, there's a kind of there's a kind of a preamble, and then we get there. So I love the way you've gone straight. You've gone straight in
But
there.
you know why I did that?
Why?
Because I could tell that you are very straight and very determined and very clear in
Well, I
what you're trying
appreciate
to
that.
do. You're welcome. So
I
that's why
appreciate
I
that.
did that, because I wanted to get right to it with
Thank
you.
you. I
And
don't know
you,
how clear. I don't know how clear I've just. I don't know how clear I've just been, but I am clear in what I'm here to do. That's for sure.
clearly, just to play around with it. Uh, but let's maybe get to a key idea of yours, which is still part of pattern and meaning, which is attunement and sovereignty, inner sovereignty.
Sure.
Those are such key ideas to me,
Sure.
and to see you writing about them, and I go "Brr, brr, brr, brr," resonate with. I
That's
say,
awesome.
okay, well, I know those ones, so I want to hear your variations on them.
That's beautiful. I'm really delighted to hear that. I think, yeah, this word attunement is important. I use that word having read it in Heidegger in Being and Time. That's actually where I kind of latched onto the word attunement, because he speaks about the attunement to being, to Dasein, right? And attuning oneself to being. So really, what does it mean to attune? It's a kind of like dialing it in, right? It's like, makes me think of a radio, like, the radio dial. It's attuning yourselves, tuning oneself to a frequency. You have a tuning fork. Attunement and resonance are inextricably sort of entangled as concepts. So then one can start thinking about oneself as an instrument, as a channel, as a receiver, as a conduit for frequencies. And as we know, this is an electromagnetic universe. We are electromagnetic beings. This isn't just pure metaphor. This is quite literal physics. So I love that intersection of metaphor and the metaphorical and the literal, right? And where that boundary is, because something one of my professors, Richard Tarnas, says is that symbol and metaphor go all the way down, as it were. Like metaphor is really true. So to talk about ourselves as an instrument, yeah, of course it's metaphorical, but we quite literally are instruments for like divine frequencies, right? Frequencies from higher planes. So to attune oneself is to refine oneself and prime oneself to receive frequencies of a different order, and hopefully then be able to detect patterns therein.
Yes, 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 and yes. How about that?
Cool.
Yes, yes, and that. And where I ask you to add something, is getting to the place where each of us can be attuned, because
Mm,
we are not. And I use the term,
mm,
I use the term signature frequency.
mm,
I have a signature frequency that is, I'll say, closer to true self, but that's not a good term because it's a noun. And my self continues to evolve, so my energy frequency continues to evolve, which is a very important thing to be able to do. Have it and then keep evolving what it is, so it becomes like more fine-tuned. And the more the instrument gets fine-tuned, the more it's able to pick up other instruments, other people who are also vibrating in something similar, their own true energy frequency, and to be able to detect them while you're with them becomes part of what I saw as the future of attunement for humanity,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
as I thought you were saying.
mm. So, I mean, yes, I agree. You're talking about resonating. What are you saying? You're just talking about being able to detect those resonating on the same frequency,
Yeah,
or
in
yeah,
resonating in a
sure,
in a harmonic frequency. It doesn't have to be the
yeah,
same one. It can't be, because our energy signatures are something like our thumbprints. They're only ours, but
sure,
we can vibrate in ways that pick up similar vibrations, like harmonics. I mean, just
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
tunes. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, like a resonant frequency, and
yeah,
then it amplifies the waveform.
exactly. And so and talk about amplifying the waveform between two people. What is that?
Well, that's physics, isn't it? If waves are coherent, they amplify each other. It's just physics.
And what happens with humans when they have waves that amplify each other?
Well, the energy is amplified. So I suppose, for example, if you had two people who are in a harmonic, sharing a certain harmonic frequency, or the waveforms are coherent, right? Then if they set an intention together, for example, then that becomes amplified, right? An amplification of a wave is the wave gets like it gets higher and deeper. That's what amplification means, right? So it becomes more intense. That's just literally
Yes,
what it means,
yes,
right? For
yes.
your listeners, yeah. Um, so the energetic signature of these people that's created, the unique signature that's created in their shared field, right? Because that would happen with any people, any two people or more, becomes louder, as it were. The field, the broadcast signal being emitted into the ethers is intensified, right? And that can be, and that goes for whether it's, a message is being broadcast of sort of hatred, whether it's like Hitler at the Nuremberg rallies, or people broadcasting a signal of love and joy and peace, whatever it is, it's going to be, if the waveforms are coherent with each other, the signal is amplified.
Then there comes, in the way I understood you, is that when you get people who are able to resonate together,
Mm.
they become attuned and then aligned with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that alignment supersedes law. You don't need law, because the authenticity of that alignment provides the people who are participating the proper direction, the best direction for them and for who those around them.
Correct. When you say law, you mean like law and order, yeah? You're
Yeah, I
talking
mean
about
that.
imposed law.
Yeah, that's what I thought
Yeah.
you meant too. Yes.
Yeah, it is what I meant.
Well, let's please riff on that one, because it's a really important idea about the future of humanity.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you have a specific question or
Yeah, yeah.
something for me to I'm with you, yeah, and I know what I'm
this
yes.
let's go to the specific question, which is very general,
Yeah.
and which is exciting to me about how you are thinking. Is
Hmm.
let's talk about what the future of humanity looks like to Arabella.
Well, so that's a huge.
It's a
I think
huge
also,
thing, but the attunement alignment thing I thought was central to it, where you didn't need law and order. You needed to be able to have that connection.
well,
That
no, but that's a very different, no, that's a very different question. You said, what does the future of humanity look like to me? Which is, there's, are you asking me the question, what do I think is going to happen? Or are you talking specifically about what I would like to happen, or what is possible? Do you see what I'm saying? Because I don't have no idea what's actually going to happen.
I don't either, and that's part
Do
of
you
the
see?
fun of it. That's part of the fun
Right,
of
but
it.
as in, but I'm being very clear. I just
You're
want to
being
make sure
very
I'm.
analytical, and you're still.
Well,
I
I'm being
know.
very, yeah, of course
I,
I'm being
I've
very
got,
analytical. I want to
and
be
what I,
really
what
answer
I,
really clearly what you're saying.
I'm asking about you are one of those rare people in my experience who
Yeah.
is imagining a positive future of humanity and what that could look like. We don't
Right.
know it. That's
But then I can go with that, right? Which
that.
is
Go with
what
it,
is
Arabella.
possible.
Go with it. Go with it.
What is possible. Well, based on this thing about alignment and not leading, what is an optimized, what is an ideal version of what consciousness, like what human consciousness, how it can manifest? I can answer that. And yes, it looks like a lot of what I described in the article, which is not needing laws imposed from the outside because everyone's self-regulating. It's very simple. Everyone's on such a high level of consciousness, like everyone who's participating in this new ideal society is on such a high level of consciousness. There are no laws, law and order. There is no police force. There is, none of that because everyone is operating correctly and virtuously from within. So it's all self-regulated, self-organized. You don't need external rules. People are organizing themselves from within. That is an ideal state of affairs, but that necessitates a high level of consciousness. So yeah, that's what I eventually hope to see. I don't know how long it will take, if it will occur at all. And I say that just because I'm an optimist, right? And I'm an idealist, and I believe in the power and potential of humanity like 1,000,000%. I also am just so I have no idea what is going to happen on this planet or how it's going to happen. What I do know, and I say this with certainty, because I'm completely uncertain about the trajectory of humanity. What I am certain about is that in the end, like in the end of time, everything is going to move back to the one and move back to bliss, love, beauty, and truth. I just don't know how, when that's going to happen for humanity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really don't know. I increasingly, not in a despondent way, but in the way that I'm like, philosophically, I know that no one knows what's going to happen. Because like, there's a lot of people who project and say with AI, this is going to happen. People are going to lose their jobs. No one knows anything.
That's
I
my.
just,
That's
do
my.
you know what I
That's.
mean?
Yeah, I do. I know. We don't know is the best place to start. It's
Yeah,
because so many people know.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to emphasize. Thank you. People seem to know. It's like no one knows what's going to
I
happen
know.
tomorrow.
Listen to me.
Yeah,
I have the
totally,
truth. And we can't
totally.
have that because everybody's got a part of the truth. And
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, a major impediment to getting to where I'd like to see humanity go
Mm,
is that
mm.
we don't know how to manage our interpersonal relationships.
Sure, sure. Yeah, totally agree with you.
Well, could you riff on that one? I'd like to hear that.
How we manage our own interpersonal relationships.
Well, let's start with. I know that gets. Let's stay with resonant and authentic and energy signature as like methods to make our relationships improve, to help augment the way we relate to each other. There are other elements, but and I'm addressing them, but it's that heart connection,
Yeah,
that energy vibrational signature resonance allows people to do. And then there's more to
yeah.
learn about how to manage that.
Well, do you know what it is? I think basically, people go around projecting the unintegrated contents of their unconscious onto other people and the world around them. That's
Yes,
basically it. That's basically it. It's Jungian psychology 101. Nothing I'm saying here has not been thought out before. This is just Jungian psychology. That, you know, the major cause of dysfunction and conflict in human relationships is projection, right? Is people having a shadow. What is the shadow? It's unintegrated aspects of the psyche that remain in the unconscious and are, you know, have not been brought into light, the lightness of awareness, conscious awareness, that are literally being holographically like projected onto others, and you know, this then creates discord, conflict, oppression, subjugation, all of it. Like, that's really, for me, that's like the kernel, is that people are going around in a state of radical unconsciousness. Which is why the individuate, you mentioned that in some of your questions, right? Or the things that piqued your interest was this thing about individuation and like how integral that is. You know, if humanity is going to succeed, and if humanity is going to realize what it's capable of, which is basically like a state of complete utopian harmony and bliss and beauty and delight, it has to individuate itself. It has to realize itself. And to realize something, everything has to be brought into a higher state of consciousness, has to be brought from the depths to, you know, and be fully integrated, right? I.e. not fractured. Something's not integrated, it's fractured, it's broken. So things have to be made whole and cohesive and coherent. If your psyche is coherent, then you're going to be operating naturally, coherently with the world around you, right? Relationships are incoherent, societies are incoherent, things are incoherent, i.e. fractured, broken, distorted, because that is a mirror. That is a mirror of the internal state of affairs, as within, so without, as above, so below, right? This is a classic hermetic law of correspondence. Everything we see going out there, you know, and here's another thing actually that people do that kind of annoys me, is that we are so quick to condemn, and people love judging as well. This is something I really try and do, is I try and not judge people. And, you know, whether that's someone who's voting for a political leader who I don't care for. You know, it's like so easy for me to judge someone who's voting for Donald Trump. Like, why would I do that? Like, they have their own reasons. You know, I could judge Donald Trump. Like, that doesn't mean that I agree. I don't agree with him at all. But I think there's also something about the energy and the charge behind judging people in a particular way that feeds this whole kind of this maelstrom. Does that make sense? It's like, how can we have an opinion on something and have a view, have a perspective on a political leader or a state of affairs or someone we know or any given situation? How can we hold having a perspective about something being, say, morally right or wrong, and yet also not have the charge, hold that charge of judgment and condemnation? Like, that is quite skilled, I think, to be able to do that. And I think that's what is required of us, right? Is to examine what it means to be virtuous, what virtue is, what beauty is, or like what moral beauty is, right? This is like ethics, philosophical ethics, and yet also not condemn those, right? That's kind of like what Jesus, I'm not saying I succeeded doing this, I just know that this to be true, that this is right. Like, that's kind of what Jesus was doing, is that he was saying, this is the truth and the light, and you guys are crucifying me, and it's okay, because I forgive you, because you don't know what you're doing. Do you see what I'm saying? He's not judging people and condemning, but he's still saying this is what's true and right, but not, you know, but forgiving.
And
right? That's higher consciousness.
My way out of that is structural determinism.
Uh-huh.
That the behavior of people who are, for example, voting for Donald Trump is determined by the structures that are influencing them.
Yeah.
So we want to blame them but we want to remove the blame. And one way that helps me doing that is to see how the structures that they are within, the political, economic, technological, interpersonal systems that they are in,
Yeah.
influence the way they think. So there's a kind of recognition that free will is not as much as we think it is, that much of what we think is free will is determined by the structures around us. And the clearer we get about those structures, the easier it is to be able to do what Jesus was doing with an idea about why. And then as we examine those structures, be able to see if it's possible to change some of them, so that leads to a reverberating change within the structure of the human beings in it.
Love that. Yeah, totally. Well, basically, that's about, acknowledging cultural conditions.
Yes, yes,
Of course.
that's that's a way to get to where you are talking about. I got a kick out of earlier on what you were saying about when people were getting judgment with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You called it a maelstrom.
No, the maelstrom. The
I know,
maelstrom.
I know the word you used was maelstrom is what
Yeah,
you used, but I couldn't help reverberating with a
I see.
maelstrom
I see.
underneath that in what you were just talking about. And but that's we're dealing with uh, the rise of the strong feminine, which you represent,
Mm.
and the resistance that the maelstrom is having to that. So
Sure.
that's why I picked up on that.
Some
On that.
wordplay. Some wordplay. I like that.
I I'm glad you like it. I love playing with words like that
That's
because,
wonderful. That's wonderful. I love words, obviously. I mean, I studied literature, so I'm big into words and etymology and all of that.
well, then let's do pattern for a minute. Do you know where the word pattern comes from?
Um, no, I don't.
Pater, the Latin father.
Well, I was thinking it's so obvious it would be Pater, right? But then
Exactly.
I thought, how could it possibly relate to that? How
To
does
what?
it? How could? So I was thinking because obviously my brain is like pattern pater is the obvious etymology because it sounds like pater, like matter comes from mater meaning
That's right.
mother.
That's right.
But I wonder how that correlates.
Well, the old archetype is of the male giving the rules
Right.
of describing the way it is, and the woman, the female, providing the support, the nurturing for the duality to emerge in something beautiful.
So Middle English, no, it comes from English pattern comes from patron, Middle English patron, something serving as a model from Old French, patron.
And French comes from Latin.
Yeah, but does it come from pater?
Well, it depends on
Pattern.
where you look it up.
No, let's make this. Let's 1580s, 1300. From circa 1300, patroon, a lord master, one who protects, supports, or encourages. Also from patron, patron protector, patron saint. Lord master, I mean, yeah, the father from pater, yeah. So yeah, it does go back to that. All right, cool. Sorry, I'm super interested in etymology. So I love going right back to the source whenever something like this comes up, and then I can lock it in. I have to sort of see it to remember it.
You got it. That's why pattern. I had to look up pattern because I studied psychotherapy, and
Mm.
patterns was what we did as therapists is look for
Uh-huh.
patterns. So I
Sure.
wanted to know, well, where did pattern come from? What is
Yeah.
that? And so that's where I ran into Pater,
Mm.
and matter. I mean, it's just they fit so nicely with the basic archetypes of the ideal father and mother coming together to help create a new reality.
Beautiful.
Well, one of the things, thank you. I'm glad you like that. It's a pleasure to be able to resonate with you on that kind of thing. Uh, Another one of your ideas, individuated anarchic beings, because you're a big fan of anarchy, and we know what you define anarchy for our audience as you describe it.
Yeah, as sure. So it's not like easily defined necessarily. That's why I had to define it myself, like come up with my own delineation of what I understand anarchy to be, because most people, if you say anarchy, they just think of chaos, basically. That's the kind of normal association. But what I was trying to do in my initial presentation for the Scientific and Medical Network, which is where the article came from that you read, was to explore the full generativity of anarchy as a system of being, a system of thought, right? As political philosophy, etc. And so I was doing some etymology, some etymological investigation there, and found that the word anarch in Greek basically means without a leader, but can also be interpreted as leader of leaderlessness. And actually, anarch used in that way was used by Percy Shelley, the Romantic poet, as meaning that leader of leaderlessness. I just thought that was a really interesting concept that I then kind of ran with. It was that initially that when I read that, I was like, oh, there's so much that can be mined from that. The idea of being a leader of leaderlessness, right? And so to come back to Jesus Christ, I'm not Christian, by the way, but like massive respect for Jesus Christ, this like ascended master, right? It's to, our modern conception of what a leader is basically someone who rules, who imposes by force, and we necessarily have force because otherwise systems are chaotic, right? So we've all like a kind of agreed, had a consensus that we're gonna, have someone who leads, who imposes rules, whether it's democratic, like a prime minister and a centralized government, or a president, or you have a dictator, whatever. But what I was getting from this concept of a leader of leaderlessness is that actually there can be a state of affairs whereby there is no need for a conventional leader, but we can still have people who are like beacons of leadership, but they're not leading by force or rules. It's more that they are literally just emanating truth. They're emanating higher consciousness. They're emanating coherence, right? They're emanating this, right, coherent patterning, shall we say, which will lead to, which correlates with coherent behavior and like coherent operating systems and like harmonics, right? And that people become living embodied representations of these harmonics. And that's what an anarch is, someone who's embodying higher order like consciousness, right? And anarchy then is a state of affairs where there is no laws imposed top down, that everyone in a way is an anarch. Everyone kind of embodies a leadership, right? And is leading in their role. Everyone has a role to play and is leading, is like their own leading light of their, do you know what I mean? I'm now sort of rambling. Is what I'm saying making sense?
You're rambling into some ambiguity, which I'm picking up,
Sure.
because the basic idea of the anarchy is this highly coherent, resonating being that can radiate that resonance out, and other people pick it up. It's like going to a concert and really getting with the music. It's the same idea.
Sure.
It's being able to just go with it because it's there to go with. Unfortunately, you leave the concert and people go back to the way they were before.
Yeah.
And that becomes what I think of as an issue that you are indirectly addressing by each person having to individuate which means get to some harmonic place to be able to resonate with the others. And there may be one person who is more resonant, and there often is, than the rest, but they can still pick up from each other as it dance. Some people are just really doing it, and we can pick it up from what they are doing, and they influence everyone else. But then when you go home, you still have to keep dancing. You still have to keep evolving. So my question for you is, as I hear you talk, there is a lot of denseness. I mean, conscious denseness, you can call it, a lack of individuation, lack of self awareness, which is what I focus on a lot all over this world for various reasons. Again, economic, social, and oppressiveness, but also lack of education and a lot of distraction by social media and other media. So they're not looking at their own minds. So what
Yeah.
I'm looking at, Arabella, is a subset of humanity that represents that anarchic being that you just described, so that they help each other evolve and can go out into the world and resonate and pick up and get reduced in their resonating by the people that they are involved with, but come back to the group that they are resonating with and be able to get energized back into a higher state of resonance. And from that group, be able to broadcast out what
Yeah.
you're saying an individual could do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's great.
Well, to me, you are potentially, I don't know anything about anything, one of those people, because you understand. That's why I was very interested in talking with you, because you are of a generation that I am not, uh, and you are with the people who need to be doing and feeling and wanting to have happen what you feel in your heart and your mind that you're striving for: individuation, resonance, frequency, vibrational, signature energy, all those things that Jesus metaphor, that not metaphor, reality you're talking about.
Yeah. Is there sorry, is there a question, or is there like a
It's talk about whatever you want to time.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, I think what I would like to say in relation to what what we're discussing, like what you've just said about emanating outwards, and I like that, how because it is quite draining being out there in society and being around people who don't get it. And then we kind of come back to our, the people who do get it. It's like, I don't know you, I've never met you, I'm just talking to you for the first time now, but we're clearly on the same wavelength, right? And we have a shared mission, so that's very energizing and beautiful to be able to talk with someone you've never met on the other side of the world and have this shared resonance and this shared vision is really powerful. So I love that. And then what I want to say in terms of emanation and in terms of dissemination of these ideas is that for me, with my onus that I put on beauty as a Neoplatonist, I think because of how are we going to do this? I think the really, the key way to do this is basically through beauty and like the transmission of ideas directly. So not about like circuiting around them or trying to even describe them, because I'm trying to describe, and I know because I interact with a lot of people who are operating within the real world, should we say, yeah. And something I'm navigating right now, and I'm trying to do it as skillfully as possible, is like really being sensitive about where people are, yeah, and not being supercilious or superior as I have been in the past, and being like, well, whatever, you don't get it, and you're irrelevant, and you're non-playing characters.
I'm sorry I'm laughing so much, but I can imagine you having been supercilious. It's just somehow,
Sure.
it just, I could just see that as you said it. Please
It's
continue.
very easy. It's very easy. I think it's very easy to dismiss people, and it's just very easy to dismiss people if they don't get it once you've had the wool pulled from your own eyes. I've definitely been culpable of that, of then dismissing, sort of, what's the right word? I think just not having enough sensitivity for where people are, and like learning how to navigate that in a way that is sensitive. Because at the end of the day, if you're going back into the cave, where like I was once manacled in the cave, looking upon the wall of shadows, thinking it was real, like that was me. I had a spiritual awakening that spontaneously, like, roused me from this slumber. Like, I'm very fortunate that that happened. And actually, the thing is, it's like, how do we go back into the cave and then rouse others from the slumber? Because you can't go and shake people awake. That doesn't work. It's like I always have this vision of sort of playing a flute, like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and sort of rousing people. It's like how do we do that? That is the task of the philosopher. That is literally the task of the philosopher, which Plato speaks about, is to take people out of the cave. And it's like I think for a while I used to really relish being quite disruptive in a way and quite provocative and saying stuff that I knew was going to like really unsettle people, and then like watching and laughing at the reactions. But I just don't think that's actually very helpful. I think it's quite immature. It's kind of funny, but like it's also like not that
Well,
helpful.
just the moment there, it's also fun.
It
But
is fun
it's just, but
until
then
you
it
start
hasn't.
dating someone who's not awake.
Yeah, right. So
Until you fall in love with someone who's not awake.
yeah, and that then it goes no place. But it's fun for a while, and that you've had your fun there, and that
Right, I've had my fun with it. It's like you kind of go through phases of development as well. It's like
yeah.
it's almost like that was a phase of my own development, to be like, ha ha ha, I'm playing the game, you're not, and you're therefore like irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's like you're literally like irrelevant, and I don't care what I say about aliens or whatever, how much it shocks you, because you are literally irrelevant. And it's like that is not what Jesus would do. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm trying to just get a bit more like Jesus.
Well, let's take that. I'm Jewish, so I don't do the Jesus thing so easily. But it's still the idea behind what you're talking about is to know the mind of the other, so that knowing the mind of the other that you are talking with, as you and I are learning the minds of each other, and it's really a pleasure to see how yours works. And it's part of being curious in the world, to be curious about how the mind of the other works.
Exactly.
A very good friend of mine is very much, I don't care what anybody thinks about what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it. I'm being spiritually involved. I am hitting a higher consciousness. I am there with it on a daily basis. And whatever I do out in the world, I'll just deal with it, and it doesn't matter to me. So I said, I'd like to I had hoped that you would understand what I'm trying to do in this world. And he doesn't. He can't. He's condensed to
Right.
knowing what my experience is. So I spent a lovely, difficult afternoon by the river here in Charlottesville, Virginia, telling him about himself. Told him about himself because he said, well, what about me? What do you know about me? So I wrote a long text message to him about all the things that I learned walking with him about him. And in trying to help him know my mind, which he hardly did in the whole time of it, I learned how to know his mind even better. So the product of my effort with him was that now I am more capable of knowing the mind of the other person as a result of trying to help him do that.
I love that. I think that's really beautiful. Thinking about, being curious and like having that genuine curiosity to get to know the mind of the other. And even the more so, the sort of, I don't want to sound supercilious again, but like the lesser refined their perspective is, let's say, yeah, to be even more curious then, and more sort of sympathetic,
Yeah.
in a way. And to go back to what I was saying before, I got a little sidetracked, but it does all relate. I really just believe that beauty and art also is the most powerful sort of way to transmit these ideas.
It
Again, if you're
is.
not trying to describe or explain, because you can't argue with beauty. And if anyone has any modicum of sensitivity to the world,
Yeah.
right, they will respond to beauty.
Yes.
You have to be seriously desensitized to, for example, go and look at a starry night sky and see a shooting star in the Milky Way and not have some sort of response to that. Right? So it's like, how can you utilize whatever that is, the numinous, or wonder, beauty, right? Utilize that capacity. And this also, of course, ties into resonance, attunement, us being instruments, right? All the stuff that we've already spoken about. That is actually what I'm sort of really here to do, and how I believe any change is going to be done. And there's an amazing quote from Terence McKenna. I might just pull it up right now, actually. Which is about, I don't know, I mean, presumably you were around in the, I don't know how old you are, but presumably you're around in the 60s.
I was a part-time hippie on Haight Street, yes.
Okay, cool. So Terence McKenna, who was around then,
He
said
was.
the artist's task is to save the soul of mankind, and anything less is a dithering while Rome burns. Because of the artists who are self-selected for being able to journey into the other, if the artists cannot find the way, then the way cannot be found. And I basically just think that sums it up, right? Like, and this is the task of art, of music, of cinema, of poetry, of literature, right? Whatever. This is how like revolutions are created. So that's what really excites me, you know, is art. I'm writing a book right now called Being and Becoming. The subtitle, interest, so funny, is I changed it a week ago. It was Unveiling the Hidden Order of Time, Beauty, and the Human Mind. And a week ago, I changed it to Unveiling the Hidden Pattern of Time, Beauty, and the Human Mind. And then you sent me that email. So I was like, wow, that is so synchronicitous. So yes, and this whole idea of pattern is very important.
It was very important in your article in the Science and Medical Network. We have about 8 minutes left until you have to go, and part of wrapping up for me is that I am looking for people like you who want to do something in the manner in which I feel resonant with what you're doing, and you feel that you can feel that resonant with me. And there are other people out there, and this is about trying to be able to have each of us. You're going to do art and beauty as a main thing, but you're also going to do knowing the mind of the other person. And the reason I bring that up right here is because it's more than projection and shadow. We have to manage that, but in doing that, rather than projecting can be a way to be empathic. You project yourself into the other person, not
Sure.
with your stuff, but with. So the difference between projection and empathy are very important for me in what I'm doing, knowing the mind of the other. So we each have our own way to do it. None of us have the whole answer. So the idea of having a resonating group of people whose hearts and minds are able to nurture each other and then go out into the world and be able to help people become more individuated is part of what my mission here is.
Well, it's really important, you know, and I truly believe that like the effect of, say, you vibrating whatever vibration you're on, which is obviously pretty high, going out there and doing that and just holding these beliefs in your heart and holding this resonance, it's exponentially more powerful than, you know, I don't know what like there's an equivalent, right? So that you represent, say, like 100,000 people. You're more powerful than 100,000 people vibrating on like whatever, you know, apathy or something, right? It's like you only need that one little match lit to go into a darkened room and it can light up the whole room. Like I really believe that, you know. So for me to come back to this whole thing of the trajectory of humanity and the future of humanity, when I know there's people like you out there doing what you're doing and just holding this level of optimism and coherence, again, for me, it's just like, oh, it's such a relief. It's so calming. It's so enlivening, because I know that that's like another like 100,000 people who are out there depressed or whatever. like have been equalized. Does that make sense?
It makes sense with one question about your metaphor of the match.
Yeah.
There is an old saying, you can't wake up someone who's pretending to be sleeping.
What do you mean?
If the person is pretending to be sleeping, they have decided to sleep.
No, I understand, but I just don't believe anyone can pretend to be asleep. I don't believe that. I believe they either are or they aren't.
Okay. The match idea is that it still has to be able to be put on fire. And what I'm trying to say is I can be a match, but it's not the kind of material that will be lit by my match.
It's more that vibrationally, in terms of the actual like vibration of the planet, right? It's like higher vibrations are more powerful. So I'm actually referring specifically to David Hawkins' work, right? Because he's talking about getting the planetary vibration to over a
That's,
calibration of 200.
yes,
That's
yes.
specifically what I mean. It doesn't even matter whether you awaken or transmit anything,
Okay,
just by
good,
being
good.
yourself, that's what I mean. You are more powerful, you know?
Okay, well, we're going to come to an end, and I very much appreciate knowing that you're out there.
Oh, thank you.
I
Well,
really do. So we appreciate
we
the
appreciate each
exist.
other. That's nice.
Yeah, we appreciate and that kind of appreciation is so precious.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to have you, have me, have each of us be able to have more experiences like that with other people. It's just a beautiful thing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you, and thank you for keeping me on my toes. Really excellent. Thank you. Thank you for this great work that you're doing.
You're welcome. And if there's some way that we can collaborate, or you want my assistance in something, please let me know, and I'll be glad to try to participate in whatever you think might be valuable for us to be involved with.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Well, let's keep in touch.
Let's
I'm
keep in
very
touch.
wishing you a very happy new year. We speak soon.
Thank you very much, Arabella.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
Bernie. Bye.